All right, let's dive into some really cool stuff about success today. You guys picked some awesome sources for us to unpack.
Yeah, they're great.
So we're looking at Mel Robbins, The 5-Second Rule,
Uh-huh.
some excerpts from Angela Duckworth's Grit,
Love that one.
and then also a peek into Carol Dweck's mindset.
I'm excited.
Yeah, this will be good. I think we're going to cover it the hunting ground today. We're talking passion, perseverance, mindset,
Big stuff,
debunking some myths about talent along the way.
for sure.
But let's kick things off with Mel Robbins and this whole 5-second rule thing. Have you ever noticed how
Oh, yeah.
some people just seem to make things happen while
Uh-huh.
others get stuck?
Oh, totally.
And she kind of jumps right into that.
She does. It's a brilliant concept, actually.
Yes.
Because, we all have those moments
Oh, yeah.
of hesitation, right? That little voice in your head.
Totally, like, maybe not now, or what if I fail?
Exactly. And Robin's whole technique
Yeah.
is about interrupting that hesitation
Okay.
before it can, take over.
Gotcha. So how does that actually work?
Well,
Is it really as simple as, like, counting backwards from 5?
It really is.
Okay.
It's that simple. When you feel yourself hesitating, you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Uh-huh.
And then you just take action. It's
Mhm.
like a mental trick to shift your focus
Yeah.
from doubt to action.
Okay.
Kind of like you're hitting the override button
I like
on
it.
procrastination.
Override button. That's a great way to put it. I've actually tried this before,
I really?
and it's wild.
Yeah,
It really does feel like you're like short-circuiting
Yeah.
that overthinking loop.
totally.
But I think what's really powerful about it is how Robbins connects it to spending more time on the things we're passionate about.
Yes, exactly. It's all about figuring out what lights you up, right?
Mhm.
What do you get lost in?
Yeah.
Even if you can only carve out small pockets of time for it,
Yeah.
this rule can help you break through those barriers,
Right.
whether they're real or just in your head.
Right. It's like a tool for clearing a path
Yes.
toward what truly matters.
I love that, clearing a path.
Now, this makes me think of Tim Ferriss's idea about examining the best case scenario,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
like that exercise where
Mhm.
you imagine what could happen if everything goes right.
Right, right. It's powerful because it forces us to confront our fears.
Oh, for sure.
And a lot of times,
Yeah.
those fears are way out of proportion to the potential gains.
Yeah.
So by writing down the best and worst case scenarios,
Uh-huh.
you might realize the risks aren't as daunting as your mind makes them out to be.
Totally.
Yeah.
This reminds me of something Angela Duckworth talks about in Grit.
Okay.
This idea that it's not just about talent, it's about passion and perseverance for the long-term goals.
Mhm.
It seems like sometimes we get so caught up in the fear of not being good enough
Oh, absolutely.
that we don't even give ourselves a chance to try this.
It's so true. Duckworth actually defines grit as that combination of passion and perseverance
Okay.
for exceptionally long-term goals.
So it's about sticking with it,
It is.
even when things get tough,
Mm-hmm.
because you're driven by something deeper.
Exactly.
I like that.
She actually studied West Point cadets
Really?
and found that the ones who succeeded
Yeah.
weren't necessarily the most talented,
Wow.
but the ones with the most grit.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about raw ability. It's about how much you're willing to commit
Mm.
and push through those inevitable challenges.
Yes, it's that stick-to-itiveness.
That makes sense. So does this mean that someone who isn't naturally gifted can still achieve incredible things?
Absolutely. In fact, Duckworth also looked at national spelling bee champions,
Okay.
and she saw a similar pattern.
Interesting.
These kids weren't just naturally brilliant spellers.
Right.
They dedicated hours and hours to deliberate practice,
Wow.
fueled by a passion for language and that determination to succeed.
I wonder, though, what about deliberate practice?
Well, it's not just mindlessly repeating the same thing over and over.
Gotcha.
It's about pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone,
Uh-huh.
focusing on your weaknesses, and seeking feedback to continuously improve.
So it's really targeted.
Yes, very much so.
Okay. It's interesting, though, because, we often hear about this whole follow your passion thing.
Right.
But what if you don't really know what your passion is yet?
That's a really good question.
Like,
It's almost like a chicken and egg situation.
right.
Do you need passion to have grit?
Yeah.
Or can grit lead you to discover your passion?
Right.
Duckworth seems to suggest that both are possible.
Hmm.
Sometimes, passion is that spark that ignites the fire of grit.
Okay.
But other times, it's the act of persevering it
Yeah.
through the challenges, of committing to something.
Yeah.
Seeing it through, that leads to a deeper sense of passion and purpose.
So it's not always about having everything figured out from the start.
Sometimes it's the journey itself
Yes.
that helps us clarify our passions and goals.
Totally.
And speaking of journeys, both Duckworth and Dweck bring up this fascinating idea,
Oh, yeah.
this naturalness bias,
Uh-huh.
this tendency to favor people
Uh-huh.
who seem effortlessly talented
Right.
over those who have to work hard.
It's like we undervalue the effort and dedication that
Totally.
it takes to actually achieve something.
Have you ever seen this play out in your own life?
Definitely. We see it everywhere,
Yeah.
in music, in business,
Everywhere.
even in academics.
It's wild.
It's this subtle belief that if you're naturally gifted,
Yeah.
you're somehow more deserving of success.
It's almost like it's easier for us to accept that success
Yeah.
if we think that person didn't have to work for it.
Right, like they were just born with it.
Right.
But the reality is, effort often plays a far more significant role
Totally.
than innate ability.
It's so true. Duckworth mentions a study where musicians...
Even though they valued hard work,
Right.
were more likely to prefer hiring musicians who were perceived as naturals.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's like there's this unconscious bias
Yeah,
that effortless talent is somehow superior.
right.
It's really interesting because it makes you wonder if we're sometimes undervaluing our own hard work
Oh, for sure.
because of this bias.
It's definitely something to be mindful of, for sure.
Yeah.
Because you might be working incredibly hard towards a goal.
Uh-huh.
But if you're constantly comparing yourself
Right.
to those who seem to achieve things effortlessly,
Yeah.
you might start to doubt your own abilities and potential.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And that's where Carol Dweck's work on mindset comes in.
Okay.
She talks about the difference between a fixed mindset,
Uh-huh.
where you believe your abilities are just set in stone,
Okay.
and a growth mindset, where you believe that you could develop your abilities
Right.
through effort and learning.
So would you say that this naturalness bias
Yeah,
can really hold someone back if they have a fixed mindset?
definitely. Because if you believe that you're not naturally talented,
Right.
you might not even bother trying.
Right. You're just going to give up before you even begin.
Exactly. A fixed mindset can be so limiting.
Right.
It can make you afraid to take risks, try new things, or even put in the effort because you're afraid of failing.
Failing and proving that you're not good enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But on the other hand,
Uh-huh.
a growth mindset can be incredibly empowering.
How so?
Well, it allows you to see challenges as opportunities for growth,
Okay.
to embrace failure as a learning experience,
Okay.
and to believe that you can constantly improve.
Gotcha. So how do we shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset?
Well, that's the good news.
Okay.
Mindsets aren't fixed.
Okay.
We can actually change our mindset
Oh, good.
through practice and consciously challenging those limiting beliefs.
Okay, so it's a choice.
It is.
Okay. So where do we start?
It all starts with becoming aware of our self-talk.
Okay.
We tend to say things like,
Uh-huh.
I'm just not good at this,
Right.
or I'll never be able to do that.
Yeah.
Or do we say things like, I can learn how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep practicing until I get better.
Right.
Our self-talk reveals a lot about our underlying mindset.
It's so true. So it's about becoming more mindful of those negative thought patterns
Exactly.
and replacing them with more positive and empowering beliefs.
Yes.
It's about reframing those I can't statements into I can
Ch-
learn how to
yeah.
statements.
I love that.
Have you ever consciously tried to shift your own mindset about something?
Oh, definitely. It's an ongoing process,
Yeah,
And it requires conscious effort and awareness.
sure.
But the more you practice, the easier it becomes.
Hmm.
It's like building a mental muscle.
I love that analogy.
Yeah,
Building a mental muscle,
Yeah.
it makes it feel much more achievable.
it does.
Like something we can actually work on
Yeah.
and strengthen over time.
Exactly.
So I'm curious to hear more about Dweck's research on the benefits of a growth mindset.
Okay.
What specific advantages did she find?
Well, one of the key findings is that people with a growth mindset
Mm-hmm.
tend to be more resilient
Okay.
in the face of setbacks.
Okay.
They don't see failure as evidence of their limitations,
Right.
but rather as opportunities for learning and growth.
Okay.
They're more likely to persevere through challenges.
So it's like they have this internal belief system
Yeah.
that says, okay, that didn't work out as planned.
Right.
But what can I learn from this experience? How can I adjust my approach and try again?
Exactly. They're not afraid to make mistakes
Uh-huh.
because they see mistakes as part of the learning process.
Right.
And that resilience is so essential for achieving any kind of long-term goal,
For sure.
whether it's mastering a new skill,
Yeah.
building a successful business,
Yeah.
or even just overcoming a personal challenge.
Think about a time
Uh-huh.
when you faced a setback in your own life.
Okay.
How did you respond?
Hmm.
Did you give up?
Yeah.
Or did you find a way to learn and grow from the experience?
That's a good question. I think my natural inclination is to get discouraged
Sure.
when things don't go as planned.
Yeah.
But I've definitely noticed that when I can shift my perspective
Yeah.
and focus on the lessons learned,
Uh-huh.
I'm much more likely to bounce back and keep moving forward.
That's the power of a growth mindset in action.
Yeah.
It's like seeing setbacks, not as roadblocks, but as detours
Yeah,
on the path to success.
exactly. And the more you practice that way of thinking,
Yeah.
the more resilient you become.
So it's not just about achieving that specific goal,
Right.
but it's about developing a mindset
Yes.
that will serve you well in all areas of your life.
Absolutely.
It's about cultivating that inner strength and resilience that allows you to face challenges with confidence and determination.
It's about building a foundation
Yeah.
of grit and a growth mindset
Yeah.
that will support you on your journey to success, no matter what that success looks like for you.
And, as we're talking about this, I'm realizing that even though we're focusing on achieving these like big, audacious goals, a growth mindset can be just as valuable
Oh, for sure.
in those everyday moments, those small challenges
Oh,
that pop up throughout the day.
It's not just about conquering mountains.
Yeah.
It's about navigating those little hills
Those little hills.
along the way.
Right, right.
It's about approaching those everyday challenges
Mm-hmm.
with a sense of curiosity and a willingness to learn and grow.
Yeah,
Even if it's just like figuring out a new recipe
right.
or tackling a DIY project around the house.
It's about finding those opportunities
Yeah.
to stretch ourselves and step outside of our comfort zones.
I love that.
Even in those seemingly mundane moments,
Yeah.
as we're talking about pushing ourselves
Yeah.
and embracing challenges.
Uh-huh.
I'm curious to hear more about the concept of deliberate practice.
Okay.
We touched on it briefly earlier,
Yeah,
but I think it's worth diving a little deeper
absolutely.
into what it actually looks like in practice.
So deliberate practice,
Yeah.
it's a key ingredient in developing any skill,
Okay.
whether it's playing a musical instrument,
Uh-huh.
writing a novel,
Yeah.
or even mastering a new language. It's
Yeah.
about moving beyond simply doing the thing
Yeah.
and into the realm of intentionally improving.
So it's not just about putting in the hours. It's
No.
about being strategic
Yeah.
and intentional with our practice time.
Exactly. It's about identifying our weaknesses, setting specific goals for improvement,
Okay.
and then designing practice sessions that target those areas.
It's almost like you're reverse engineering
Yeah.
the skill that you want.
You are.
And figuring out what are the components
Mhm.
and how can I get better at each individual component.
Yes. And then putting it all together.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thosworth mentions that the
Uh-huh.
Grimmier spellers in her study not only practiced more,
Yeah.
but they also rated their practice as both more enjoyable
That's interesting.
and more effortful.
More effortful.
Like, how can those two things coexist?
Yeah.
Enjoyment and effort.
Right. It seems like a bit of a contradiction.
Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive.
It is, but the reality is
Yeah.
that true grit
Mm-hmm.
often involves finding satisfaction in the process
Okay.
of striving and improving
Yeah.
even when it's difficult.
Right.
It's about embracing that challenge
Yeah.
and finding joy in the pursuit of mastery.
So I guess it's not always going to feel good in
Mhm.
the moment.
No, it's not about comfort.
Right. But there's a different type of satisfaction.
There is.
That comes from pushing yourself
Yes.
and seeing that growth.
It's the growth itself that brings that satisfaction.
This makes me think of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
Uh-huh.
His work on flow,
Okay.
that state of complete absorption and focus.
Mm-hmm.
When you're fully engaged in a
Wow.
challenging and meaningful activity,
Right.
he describes flow as performing at high levels
Uh-huh.
of challenge
Okay.
and yet feeling effortless.
Interesting.
Like you don't have to think about it, you're just doing it.
Right.
It's that feeling of being completely in the zone
I love that.
where time seems to disappear.
Yeah.
You're fully immersed in the activity.
That's a great connection.
Yeah,
Because while deliberate practice and flow
yeah.
might seem like distinct concepts,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there's a link
Yeah,
where
maybe.
deliberate practice with its focus on challenge and growth
Uh-huh.
actually lead to more frequent experiences of flow,
That's an interesting thought.
isn't it?
Because they both involve
You do.
pushing yourself beyond your current abilities,
Yes.
engaging deeply,
Yes.
and seeking those moments of growth and mastery.
Definitely something worth exploring further.
Yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
even if deliberate practice isn't always easy or effortless,
Mhm.
it can be deeply rewarding
It can.
and even lead to those incredible moments of flow.
Yes.
And the more we engage in deliberate practice,
Mhm.
the more we build our grit, our resilience, and our capacity for achievement.
It's like a cycle.
It is. It's a powerful cycle of growth.
I love
It's
that.
not just about the destination.
It's about the journey.
It's about the journey itself. It's about
Yes.
finding joy in the process
Mhm.
of learning, growing, and pushing ourselves to new heights.
I love that.
And as we continue this deep dive,
Yeah.
I think it's important to acknowledge that even with all of this,
Uh-huh.
with the grit, with the deliberate practice,
Right.
with the growth mindset,
Yeah.
setbacks are inevitable.
They are a part of life.
Yeah.
Especially when you're striving for something challenging.
I'm right. Like, nobody achieves great things
Nope.
without facing challenges and experiencing failures along the way.
The key is how we interpret
Yeah.
and respond to those setbacks.
Duckworth shares a fascinating story about Bob Mankoff,
Oh, yeah, I love that story.
the cartoon editor of The New Yorker,
Uh-huh.
who faced years and years of rejection before achieving success.
That's incredible.
Instead of giving up,
Yeah.
he went to the New York Public Library
Really?
and studied every cartoon published in The New Yorker since 1925.
That's amazing.
He turned rejection
Yeah.
into an opportunity for research and learning.
That's a perfect example
It is.
of turning a potential roadblock into a stepping stone.
Yeah.
He had the growth mindset,
Uh-huh.
he had that optimistic self-talk,
Yeah.
and the belief that he could overcome challenges.
And achieve his goals.
Yeah.
His dedication is so inspiring.
It is.
It reminds us that even in the face of setbacks,
Mhm.
we have a choice.
Yes, we do.
We can either let those setbacks define us,
Right.
or we can use them as fuel to learn, grow, and come back even stronger.
And it's a reminder that grit
Yeah.
isn't just about individual determination.
Uh-huh.
It's also about the communities and cultures
That's a great point.
that we're a part of.
Because we've talked a lot about the importance of leadership
Yes.
and creating a culture of grit
Mhm.
within teams and organizations.
Right.
But what about the role of our personal support systems?
Oh, that's so important.
Our family, friends, mentors,
Yes.
even broader communities.
Absolutely.
How do those relationships influence our development of grit?
Duckworth emphasizes the importance of what she calls wise parenting,
Okay.
which is a style that combines high expectations
Uh-huh.
with warmth and support.
Gotcha.
It's about setting clear goals,
Yeah.
encouraging effort and perseverance,
Mm-hmm.
but also providing a loving and supportive environment
Right.
where children feel safe to take risks and learn from their mistakes.
So it's about finding that balance
It
of
is.
challenge and support.
Yes.
So it's not just about pushing ourselves. It's about having a safe and supportive space to land
Yeah.
when we stumble.
It is.
It's about having people
Yes.
who believe in us, encourage us, and help us get back up
Mm-hmm.
when we fall.
Absolutely. And those supportive relationships can come from all sorts of places.
For sure.
Family, friends, mentors, teachers, coaches,
Right.
even online communities.
Yeah, it's about surrounding ourselves with the right people.
It is.
Yeah.
The key is to surround yourself with people who inspire you, challenge you, and believe in your potential.
And those supportive relationships don't just benefit us as individuals.
Mhm.
They also contribute to creating
Yeah.
a culture of grit within our communities and society as a whole.
It's like a ripple effect,
It is.
spreading outward.
Yeah. And that brings us to an important question.
Okay.
Can grit be taught?
That's the question, isn't it?
Can we intentionally cultivate grit in ourselves and others?
Right.
Can we create environments that foster this quality?
I think the research suggests
Okay.
that the answer is a resounding yes.
Okay.
Grit can be developed.
So it's not just something you're born with.
It's not.
Okay.
Mindsets can be shifted.
Uh-huh.
Cultures can be transformed.
That's hopeful.
It is.
It's about understanding the science of grit,
Mhm.
the power of mindset,
Yes.
the importance of deliberate practice,
Yeah.
and the role of purpose and supportive relationships.
So important.
It's about challenging those conventional notions of talent,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that effort, perseverance, and a growth mindset
Yes.
can make all the difference.
It's about taking action.
It is. It's not enough to just understand these concepts.
Right.
We need to put them into practice.
So true.
So where do we go from here?
That's the question.
How do we take all of this knowledge
Yeah.
and actually apply it to our lives?
Such a good question.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll explore in
Right.
more depth in the next part of our deep dive.
I'm ready.
Let's do it. We've covered a lot, haven't we? We talked about grit, the importance of mindset, and those supportive relationships that can really help us achieve our goals. But now I think it's time to get practical.
I agree. Let's get down to grass tacks.
All right.
What's one specific action
Mm.
someone can take, like today,
Ooh, good question.
to start cultivating more grit?
Okay, let's go back to Mel Robbins
Okay.
and that 5-second rule.
Okay.
Think about something you've been putting off.
Uh-huh.
Maybe a goal you've been kind of hesitant to pursue.
Right.
Could be anything,
Anything at all.
big or small.
Like writing that novel that's been in your head for years.
Yes, exactly.
But never made it onto the page.
Or maybe it's signing up for that online course you've been eyeing.
Oh, yeah.
Finally having that difficult conversation you've been avoiding.
Oh, that's a good one.
Or even just committing to going for a walk every single day.
In the little things.
Whatever it is,
Yeah.
don't overthink it.
Right.
Just count down from 5 and take that first step.
It's like giving yourself permission
Yes.
to stop procrastinating and start taking action.
I love that.
You know what?
This-
This ties in perfectly with what we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
That idea of breaking down
Yes.
these big, overwhelming goals into smaller, more manageable steps.
I think Duckworth talks about that in Grit as well.
She does.
She says grit depends on a different kind of hope. It rests on the expectation that our own efforts can improve our future. I have a feeling tomorrow will be better is different from I resolve to make tomorrow better.
I like that.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
It's about shifting from a passive mindset
Okay.
to an active one.
Gotcha.
Instead of waiting for things to happen,
Yeah.
you make them happen.
I like that. And this is where deliberate practice comes in, right?
It is.
So how do we move from just going through the motions
Yeah, good question.
to actually engaging in deliberate practice? What does that look like?
Think about a skill
Okay.
you'd like to improve,
Uh-huh.
whether it's playing an instrument,
Okay.
learning a new language, or improving your public speaking skills.
Okay.
Deliberate practice involves
Yeah.
breaking down that skill into smaller components
Okay.
and then focusing on those areas where you need the most improvement.
So you're really targeting.
You are.
Okay.
You're setting specific goals for each practice session.
Mm-hmm.
You're pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone,
Right.
and you're seeking feedback
Okay.
to continuously improve.
So it's not just about practicing the things that you're already good at.
No,
You're really focusing on those areas where you're weakest.
you got it.
Okay. You have to be intentional and strategic with your practice time.
You do.
And, you mentioned it can be challenging
It can.
and frustrating at times.
Oh, absolutely.
This is where the grit comes in.
It
You
is.
have to stick with it even when it's hard because you're driven by this desire to improve and grow.
Yeah.
And I think having a growth mindset is super helpful here
Oh, for sure.
because it's all about seeing those challenges not as roadblocks, but as opportunities
Right.
to learn and develop.
Exactly. It allows you to approach those difficult practice sessions
Yeah.
with a sense of curiosity
Uh-huh.
and a willingness to learn from your mistakes.
Right.
So instead of getting discouraged when things don't go perfectly,
Yeah.
you see it as valuable feedback that can help you improve.
It's like reframing those failures as learning experiences,
Yes.
as stepping stones.
Stepping stones on that path
to mastery.
I love that.
Yeah, this makes me think about all the times I've given up on things.
Oh, yeah.
Because it just felt too hard
Mhm.
or I wasn't seeing progress
Right.
as quickly as I wanted.
That
And it
happens.
makes me wonder if I had approached those challenges with a bit more grit,
Right?
maybe a bit more of a growth mindset.
It's easy to get discouraged when we don't see immediate results.
For sure.
But true mastery takes time, effort,
Yeah.
and a willingness to embrace the process,
Yeah.
even when it's messy.
And imperfect. Speaking of messy and imperfect,
Okay,
let's talk about setbacks. We've
Good.
mentioned this a few times,
we have.
but I think it's important to really dive into
Yeah, let's do it.
how we can handle those inevitable moments
Yeah.
when things don't go as planned.
Well, setbacks are a part of life, right?
For sure.
They're especially common.
Mm-hmm.
When we're striving for something challenging,
Yeah.
the key is to not let those setbacks derail us.
Right.
Remember Bob Mankoff?
Oh, yeah, the cartoonist.
Yeah, he faced years of rejection
Like incredible.
before he achieved success at the New Yorker.
Instead of giving up, he used those setbacks as an opportunity to learn and improve.
He did. And it's a great reminder that we always have a choice
Right.
in how we respond to adversity.
Yeah.
We can either let it defeat us,
Yeah.
or we can use it as fuel
Uh-huh.
to grow and come back even stronger.
And that's where optimism comes in, right? It's about believing that things will eventually get better, even when we're facing challenges. And
Yeah.
this isn't about being naive or ignoring reality.
No, it's not about sticking your head in the sand.
Right.
It's about cultivating a mindset
Yeah.
that allows us to see the potential
Okay.
for growth and improvement,
Right.
even in the midst of difficulty.
So it's about finding that balance
Yes, it is.
between acknowledging the challenges, but maintaining a sense of hope
Yeah,
and possibility.
exactly.
So how do we cultivate optimism?
Okay, that's a good
Is
question.
it something we're born with?
Uh-huh.
Or can we learn to be more optimistic?
Well, the good news is optimism is a skill that can be learned
Okay.
and developed over time.
I like that.
Martin Seligman,
Okay.
one of the leading researchers in positive psychology,
Uh-huh.
he talks about this concept of learned optimism.
Okay.
He found that optimists and pessimists
Yeah.
explained events in very different ways.
Interesting. So it's not just about what happens to us, but it's how we interpret and how we explain those events to our play.
It's our perspective.
love that.
Optimists tend to view setbacks
Uh-huh.
as temporary and specific.
Okay.
For example, if they fail a test,
Right.
they might say, I didn't study enough for this particular test.
Okay.
Or I need to find a better way to study for this subject.
Right.
They see the setback as something they can learn from.
Right. And improve upon.
Exactly. But pessimists
Hmm.
tend to view setbacks as permanent and
Oh.
pervasive.
Okay.
So they might say,
Yeah.
I'm just not good at taking tests.
Right.
Or I'm never going to succeed in this subject.
Yeah.
They see the setback as evidence of their inherent limitations.
That's rough.
It is.
Because those pessimistic explanations,
Yeah.
they can be really damaging to our
Yeah.
self-esteem and our motivation.
Absolutely.
If we constantly tell ourselves we're not good enough or we're destined to fail,
Right.
it's going to be hard to find the energy to keep going.
Exactly. And that's where the practice of optimistic self-talk comes in.
Okay.
It's about consciously challenging
Yeah.
those negative thought patterns
Mm-hmm.
and replacing them with more positive and empowering beliefs.
It's about choosing to focus
Yes.
on what we can control,
Right.
identify the lessons we can learn from those setbacks,
Mhm.
and believe in our ability to overcome challenges and achieve our goals.
It's about being intentional with our self-talk
Okay.
and choosing to focus on those explanations that empower us
Yeah.
rather than those that disempower us.
It's about shifting our perspective.
It is.
And this ties back to growth mindset too, right?
It does.
When we believe that our abilities can be developed through effort and learning,
Mhm.
we're more likely to approach challenges with optimism
Yes.
and determination.
Exactly. We see setbacks
Yeah.
as opportunities for growth.
Right. Not
Right.
reasons to give up.
Exactly. It's like we're building a positive feedback loop.
It is. It is.
The more we practice optimistic self-talk,
Mm-hmm.
embrace a growth mindset,
Yeah.
the more resilient we become in the face of challenges.
And the more resilient we become, the more confident we feel
Yeah.
in our ability to achieve our goals.
It's a beautiful cycle.
It is.
That sense of confidence and self-efficacy
Yeah.
can be incredibly empowering.
For sure. Because then we can take risks. We can
Yes.
push ourselves beyond our comfort zones.
And pursue those goals that truly inspire us,
Right.
even when they seem daunting or impossible.
This is really resonating with me
Yeah.
because I think for a long time
Yeah.
I held myself back
Mhm.
from pursuing certain goals
Hmm.
because I was afraid of failing or not being good enough.
Right? Yeah.
But now I'm starting to see that failure is just a part of the process.
Yes.
Every setback is an opportunity to learn and grow.
Exactly. And, this connects back
Okay.
in the South to the idea of purpose that
Okay.
we talked about earlier.
Right.
When we connect our goals to something larger than ourselves,
Yeah.
something we're truly passionate about,
Hmm.
it gives us a deeper sense of motivation
Okay.
and resilience.
It's like having that North Star
Yes,
to guide us.
it is.
That reminder
Yeah.
of why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah,
Even when it gets tough.
exactly. And purpose doesn't have to be something grand
Right.
or world-changing.
Mm.
It can be something as simple as wanting to make a difference in your community,
Okay.
being a positive influence in the lives of your loved ones,
Right.
or simply living a life that feels meaningful
Yeah.
and aligned with your values.
It's about finding what truly matters to you.
It is. It's about identifying
Yeah.
what matters to you, what gives you a sense of fulfillment,
Right.
and then aligning your actions with those values.
And when we find that sense of purpose,
Yeah.
it can be so empowering.
It can. It gives us the strength to persevere through challenges,
Mhm.
to bounce back from setbacks,
Mhm.
and to keep moving forward,
Yeah.
even when the path ahead seems uncertain.
And this brings us back to supportive relationships.
Yes, it
We've
does.
touched on this a bit already,
We have.
but I think it's so important to emphasize
It is.
how crucial it is to have people in our lives who believe in us,
Yes.
encourage us, and challenge us to grow.
They're so important.
Absolutely. We talked about wise parenting
Right.
and creating a culture of grit
Mhm.
within families and communities.
Yeah.
But those supportive relationships can come from all sorts of places.
They can.
Mentors, teachers, coaches, colleagues, even friends.
All of the above.
Yeah, it's about surrounding ourselves with people who inspire us to be our best self.
I love that.
And it's not just about receiving support.
Mhm.
It's about giving support
Right.
when we help others achieve their goals,
Mhm.
overcome challenges,
Yeah.
cultivate their own grit and resilience.
It makes everyone stronger.
It does.
We strengthen those relationships. We create a more positive and supportive environment
For everyone.
for everyone.
It's about building that culture
It is.
of grit and a growth mindset.
that extends beyond ourselves into our communities,
Yeah.
the world around us.
It's not creating that ripple effect
It is.
of positive change.
Exactly.
This makes me think about the role of leadership
Okay.
in fostering grit and resilience.
That's a big one.
We've mentioned a few examples already, like
Uh-huh.
Pete Carroll, Anson Dorrance,
Uh-huh.
but I'm curious to hear your thoughts
Yeah.
on how leaders can create a culture that
Uh-huh.
supports growth and development.
That's a great question. I think one of the most important things
Yeah.
leaders can do is model the behaviors
Okay.
they want to see in others.
So it's not just about talking the talk, it's
Mm.
about walking the walk.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not just about being tough or demanding.
Right.
It's about creating that culture of psychological safety
Uh-huh.
where people feel comfortable taking risks,
Okay.
making mistakes, asking for help.
That safe space to try things?
It is recognizing effort and celebrating progress,
Yeah,
even when it's small.
I like that.
It's about creating an environment
Yeah.
where people feel supported and encouraged to grow and develop their skills,
Right.
even when they stumble or face setbacks.
Yeah, it's like giving them permission to fail.
It is. It is.
And it's interesting, too, because you mentioned being mindful of the language that we use.
Yes.
So instead of praising people
Uh-huh.
for being talented or gifted,
Right.
we focus on their effort, their
Mhm.
perseverance,
Yeah.
and their willingness to learn and grow.
Exactly. It's about shifting that focus
Yeah.
from innate ability
Mm-hmm.
to the process of development and growth.
And these principles
Yeah.
aren't just for the workplace, right?
No, they're not.
This can be for parenting, teaching, coaching,
Any
mentoring, anywhere where we have influence.
Yes, we can all play a role
Yeah,
in fostering grit and resilience in those around us.
I like that.
It's about being mindful of our words and actions
Uh-huh.
and consciously choosing to create an environment that supports growth,
Yeah.
development, and resilience.
So as we're wrapping up this part
Yeah.
of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to emphasize that this journey of cultivating grit,
Mm-hmm.
embracing a growth mindset,
Uh-huh.
and achieving our goals,
Yeah.
this is an ongoing process.
Yes.
It's not something we achieve overnight.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
It takes time, effort, and a willingness to embrace the ups and downs.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah, it is.
And it's a journey that's worth taking.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the rewards are immense.
They are.
When we cultivate grit,
Mm-hmm.
we not only achieve our goals,
Yeah.
but we also develop a sense of purpose,
Right.
resilience, self-efficacy that enriches our lives.
Yes, it's so true.
In countless ways.
And those benefits extend far beyond ourselves.
They do.
When we embrace grit and a growth mindset,
Yeah.
we create a ripple effect of positive change that impacts for families, our communities, and the world around us.
So what are your final thoughts
Yeah.
as we move into the last part
The last part.
of our deep dive?
Remember that you are capable
Okay.
of incredible things.
I like that.
Embrace the challenges, learn from your mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and never stop striving
Yeah.
to become the best version of yourself.
I love that.
It's good, right?
And, I'm feeling really inspired and motivated
Yeah.
to put all this into practice.
Me too.
So as we've been talking about all this stuff with grit and growth mindset and, achieving these big goals,
Yeah.
I've been kind of thinking about something that wasn't really explicitly mentioned in these sources, but
Okay.
it feels relevant.
Right.
We talk a lot about the importance of passion and perseverance,
Uh-huh.
but what happens when, our passions evolve over time?
Oh, that's such a good point. It's easy to assume that our passions are fixed.
Yeah, like you're born with them.
Yeah. But in reality, they often evolve as we grow and learn.
Exactly. And that's what I've been thinking about, this feeling that once we've invested a lot of time and effort into something,
Right.
we're almost obligated to stick with it,
Oh, yeah.
even if our interests have shifted
Yeah, totally.
or our definition of success has changed.
Absolutely. There's definitely a societal expectation
Yeah,
that we need to have it all figured out
right.
and follow a linear path
Okay.
towards success.
But life rarely works out that way.
It really doesn't.
Our interests change, our priorities shift,
Yeah.
and sometimes we simply outgrow
Yeah.
those goals that we set
Yeah.
earlier in life.
It's like we're afraid to admit that maybe we've changed our minds
Totally.
or that what once excited us
Yeah.
no longer holds the same appeal.
Right.
But it's so important
It is.
to be true to ourselves and those evolving passions.
Right, because clinging to a goal
Yeah.
just for the sake of it
Right.
doesn't really make sense.
No, it doesn't.
If it's no longer truly aligned.
Yeah. I think it's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between perseverance and flexibility.
That makes sense.
So grit and determination, they're essential,
Uh-huh.
but we need to be honest with ourselves
Yeah.
about when it's time to adjust course
Okay.
or even pivot to a completely new path.
So how do we know
That's the question.
when to stick with it and when to let go?
It's a question that requires a lot of self-reflection
Okay.
and an honest assessment.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to push through those moments of doubt and frustration,
Okay.
dig deep
Uh-huh.
and find that extra ounce of grit.
Right.
But other times, those feelings of disinterest
Uh-huh.
or disengagement
Yeah.
might be a sign
Okay.
that it's time to reevaluate.
Gotcha.
You could,
And consider whether those goals are still aligned. Right. Aligned with who we are now. It's like listening to that inner voice
yeah,
and trying to figure out, is it
Yeah.
fear talking
right.
or intuition guiding us towards something better?
It's a tough one.
It is. And I think it's important to remember
Yeah,
that changing course doesn't mean that we failed
it doesn't.
or wasted our time. Like
Yeah.
all of those experiences,
Yeah.
even the ones that didn't work out,
Right.
they still contribute to our growth
They do.
and
It's
development.
all part of the journey.
It's all part of the
They
journey.
shape who we are,
Yeah.
and they inform the choices we make
Right.
moving forward.
It's about reframing those detours as
Yeah.
valuable learning experiences.
Yes.
That ultimately
Yeah.
lead us to where we're supposed to be.
Exactly.
And as we're talking about this, I'm also thinking about the importance of self-compassion,
That's so important.
because it's easy to beat ourselves up,
Oh, it is.
giving up on something,
Yeah.
or for wasting time,
Right.
on something that didn't pan out.
Right. But we were doing the best we could
Yeah.
with the information and resources we had
At the time.
at the time.
Exactly.
Self-compassion is key,
Yeah.
especially during those moments
Mhm.
of uncertainty and transition.
Right.
Be kind to yourself,
Yeah.
acknowledge your efforts,
Mm-hmm.
and recognize that it's okay to change your mind,
Okay.
adjust course, and redefine your own definition of success.
And this whole conversation
Yeah,
really highlights the importance of a growth mindset.
it does, because if we believe that our abilities are fixed,
Right.
it's so much harder
Yeah.
to embrace those moments of transition.
Totally.
But if we believe that we can learn and grow throughout our lives,
Right.
those changes become opportunities
Yeah.
for exploration and expansion.
I love that.
A growth mindset
Yeah.
allows us to approach those transitions
Hmm.
with a sense of curiosity and excitement.
Right. Rather than fear and self-doubt.
It's about embracing with unknown
Yeah.
and trusting that we have the capacity to learn and adapt
Mm-hmm.
and create a fulfilling life
Right.
that aligns with those evolving passions and goals.
I love that. Well, we've covered a lot of ground
We
today,
have
talking about grit, growth mindset, achieving these big goals.
all the big stuff.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, I want to
Mhm.
leave our listeners
Yeah,
with a few key takeaways.
right?
First, remember that passion and perseverance,
Mhm.
they're essential ingredients for success.
They are.
But it's okay to allow those passions to evolve
They will.
over time,
Yeah.
embrace a growth mindset,
Yes.
and approach those setbacks as opportunities
Yeah.
to learn and grow.
They are.
And finally, seek out supportive relationships. Surround yourself with people
Yes.
who believe in you, encourage you, and challenge you to be your best self.
Those people are gold.
They are.
And don't forget about deliberate practice.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's not just about putting in the hours.
Right.
It's about being intentional,
Uh-huh.
strategic, and focused.
So even when you're feeling discouraged
Yeah.
or doubtful,
Yeah.
you have the power to choose optimism.
You do.
Reframe those negative thoughts
Absolutely.
and keep moving forward.
Keep going.
With grit and determination.
That's it.
This deep dive has given you a toolkit of strategies and
It
insight.
has.
And now it's up to you
Yes.
to put them into action
That's right.
and create a life that
Mhm.
is both meaningful and fulfilling.
You got this.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep those minds curious, those hearts passionate, and those spirits gritty.